Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will show you how to do this accent nail using striping tape with dip powder. And for this, we will need our 3 dip liquids, your dip powders, striping tape, duster brush, and a brush for sprinkling, and your buffer blocks and paper towels. So for this specific one, I am using Sparkle & Co. dips and dip liquids, and the dips I'm using are Goals and 2020 Vision from the New Year's collection. And these I don't think are available anymore. You might be able to find them in some BST pages, but not sure. Then I have my striping tape. And then since they're mini jars, I like to put them in cupcake liners when I use them. That way any spills stay in the liner and I can pour it back into the jar. But yeah, so first of all, what we're going to do is go in with our first coat of base bond after you prep your nail. And you want to do thin coats. This will only be 3 dips, but yeah, keep your coats thin. And we're going to dip it into your first color or your base color. I'm using Goals, and it's this really pretty, like, hollow glitter. And then it has, like, foil flakes in it as well. It's probably one of my favorite dips I have seen. It's really, really pretty. But yeah, I'm just going to pat down the glitter to make sure it lays flat. And brush off your extra powder with a brush, or this is my favorite thing. It's just a nail brush. It gets the powder out of your cuticles and stuff, but for a swatch, I'm just using a regular brush. Okay, and then once you get all of the extra powder off of there, we're going to go in with our second coat of base bond, and same thing, just paint it on like normal. Keep your coats pretty thin, you don't need them thick. And then this is one of my most important tips, is to wipe off your base bond brush on a paper towel, especially when using glitters, before dipping it back into the bottle. If powder gets in there, it can get goopy and nobody wants a ruined base bond. So yeah, I did my second dip and I'm just patting it down. And for my base, since I'm going to be doing the design over it, I'm only doing 2 dips. You could do 3, but there's no need for it because you're doing a third dip in a different color over top. So, yep, just 2 base dips for this one. Okay, and so now that that's done, I'm going to brush off my extra powder. I brushed it off a little too soon, as you can see, but it's not a big deal because we're going to buff anyway. So once this is dry, I'm going to dust off my extra powder. And what I'm going to do, normally I would put a dip of clear over the glitter to protect my glitter when buffing. But instead of doing a dip of glitter and adding in that extra, 4th dip, what I'm going to do to this swatch is I'm actually going to take my base bond and do a thin coat of base bond over this. And I'm not going to dip it into anything. I'm just going to do my base bond, wipe off my brush, and then I'm going to let this dry. Just long enough to get, like, I guess you call it like a skin over it, or you'll see the base bond kind of shrink onto the nail and not be as shiny. And when that happens, so I would say about 30 seconds to a minute, once that starts to happen, I'm going to go in with a coat of Solidify. And you can be kind of generous with the coat, it doesn't really matter. Just paint it on like normal, and then we're going to wait about, I would say around a minute for it to do its thing and harden. Ultimately, you're just waiting till it's dry to the touch. But yep, good coat of Solidify, and we wait about a minute. And I love this little trick of doing a coat of base instead of a dip of clear, because I know some people have had issues doing a clear dip, how it removes some of the like glitter shimmery look. Sparkle & Co. has a really great clear, so their clear is like glass, so I would recommend using that one. But this gives you the same protection as a dip of clear would without the extra dip. So just a nice little tip. And once that's dry to the touch, I'm just going to go in with a buffer block and buff any, rough patches. Make sure it's all nice and even. Buff it. I'm going to hit the sides and the nail tips also with like a file. And yeah. And also this is the same color that is on my middle fingers and my designs on my index and ring finger. So same exact thing. And I'll also make sure to link everything in the description below. Like I said, I don't think these 2 dips are available anymore. But I can definitely help you find ones that are similar. So just a heads up, I'll put everything down below. And I'm just filing to make sure that my shape is even and that my edges are good with no, hangovers or sharp edges or anything like that. And then once you're happy with how it looks, we're going to go in with a second coat of base bond. And I'm going to let it dry slightly and then go in with my solidify again. And the reason I'm doing this a second time is because it'll give a really nice, clean, even look for when you do the design. It helps the tape stick to it when it's not like a rough surface. When it's nice and smooth and shiny surface, this tape sticks better. That's all it is. But yeah, so let that dry for a second and then go in with a coat of solidify. And if anybody's not using Sparkle & Co. liquids, which I would highly recommend, Solidify is the same as Activator. Same thing, different name. But Sparkle & Co. has my favorite liquid, so I would highly recommend them. But yep, just going to let that dry for about 30 seconds to a minute, just until it's dry to the touch. Okay, and so once this is dry, I am now going to take a few pieces of striping tape that I already cut. I just cut it with scissors, just cut a handful of pieces off. And what I'm going to do is just place them, excuse me, randomly on the nail, pressing them down to make sure that they stick. And you can do as many of these as you want. You can do whatever design you want. I just place them kind of random. So remind you, anything that's not covered with the striping tape is going to be a different color. So however much, base color you want showing, you would obviously want more stripes. If you don't want that many stripes, then just do less pieces. So I think I did about 5 pieces of striping tape for this design. And just make sure when you do this, if you can, kind of remember which piece you laid last, because when you go to pick them up off of the nail, you're going to start picking them up with the last piece that you laid down. So now that we have our tape on there nice and secure, what we're going to do is we're going to go right in with our base bond, and we're going to do a thin coat of this on top of our design. So just making sure everything's pressed down good. So thin coat of base bond. You want to make sure to get the entire nail. If you end up missing a spot, it's easy to just go back over it. No problems. But try to cover the entire nail with just a thin coat. Get all the little tiny spots. And then what I'm going to do, instead of dipping it in, I am going to just sprinkle this over. And this one, it might look a little bit different because this is, instead of being just plain black, this is 20/20 vision, so it has gold flakes in it. But it still looks really pretty, especially against that glitter. So I'm just taking a brush and sprinkling it on. You could do the pour over method. You could just dip it in, but I'm not going to. I'm sprinkling it. And you can see I missed a spot on the bottom, so I'm just going to touch that really quick and then dip that spot back in. And you're not going to be able to tell once you pull it off. And now you want to try to go in. You want to work kind of fast because the longer you wait, the tape's not going to come off. So just try to start with the last piece you laid down. And if, like right here, it gives you any resistance, move on to the next piece. And when it stops giving resistance is when you know that's the right piece to pull off. So just work your way around and pull off every piece. As you can see, it comes off really easily. And yeah, you just want to do that for every piece until you get them all off. Okay, and now that I have all of those pieces off, here's what I have so far with our design in there. And you can see the little gold flakes from the black. And now we're done with the black. We're only doing one coat is all you need for the design. So I'm going to brush off my extra black powder. Okay, now that the extra powder is off, I'm going to go in with a thin coat of base bond again. Let that dry for a few seconds. And then I'm going to go in with my solidify right on top. And you technically don't need to do this step. You could just go right in with solidify. But I personally am going to do the base first and then solidify. That way it acts as, a dip of clear without the extra dip. But it's going to protect my design when I'm buffing. So like I said, it's not necessarily needed. I personally like it. And the design is pretty flat. It doesn't, I know it seems like it would be really raised, but it's not because you do thin coats. So that's why thin coats of base bond are super important. But now that that's dry a little bit, I'm just going to go in with my coat of Solidify and let that dry about 30 seconds to a minute, just until it's dry to the touch. And while we wait for this to dry, if you want any of these powders, please go to sparkleandco.com and use code SPARKLE10 for 10% off of your order. And there's always free shipping over $25 after credits and discounts. And if it's your first purchase, you can use my name as a referral in the notes at checkout on your first order to receive a $9 credit. Or if you sign up for a subscription bag, it's an $18 credit. Any questions, feel free to leave a comment or message me on Facebook, whatever's easier. But yeah, so now that that's all done, I'm going to just file the edges to make sure my shape is how I want it, to make sure there's not any rough edges. And I'm going to go over it with my buffer block. Like I said, it's already pretty flat. I'm just smoothing out any bumps that there may be. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of like textures. If I can feel like textures on my nails, it kind of bugs me. Unless it's like an intended texture, like a sugar nail or like a 3D kind of design. So I always buff even if my nails feel pretty smooth. And once you're happy with how it is, go ahead and go over with your last coat of Solidify. And with Sparkle & Co. liquids, what works for me is I wait about 30 seconds to a minute, I would say, or 1 to 2 minutes. I would say I wait about 1 minute for my Solidify to dry. And then I'm going to go in with my top coat. Okay, so now that it's been about 30 seconds, I'm going to go in with a clean paper towel and I'm going to wipe off any extra Solidify that might be there. Even if you think it's fully dry, still go over it with a paper towel because you do not want Solidify getting into your top coat brush. It'll make it hard and it'll ruin your liquid. So make sure to wipe it off. And then you're going to go in with your first coat of top coat and keep this coat pretty thin. Make sure to wipe your brush off before putting it into the bottle so it does not contaminate your top coat. And we're going to let that dry for, I don't know, 15 seconds or so. Normally I would do this on all 5 nails and then go back in. So about 15 seconds and then go in with your second coat of top coat. This coat can be a little bit thicker because it's your final shiny coat. Wipe off your brush, and now we're going to wait 2 minutes for it to dry. Alright, so here is our completed look with striping tape and dip powder. As you can see, it's incredibly easy. You could do this with any colors. You don't have to do glitter in a solid. You could do it with 2 solids. You could do it with 2 glitters, literally anything you want. You could mix and match and do multiple colors instead of just 2, really whatever you want. But here is our final look at our design using striping tape with dip powder. And if there's any other designs or anything you guys want to see, please leave a comment and let me know what kind of videos you want, and I can show you anything. But here's our striping tape design with our dip powder. And okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram and let me know what you want to see. All right, deuces and smooches.